Okay, so let me start from okay. Yes, so these are some forms of technical communication. Okay, and let us also start on. Let me talk on types of technical communication. Okay, types of technical communication is. For example, language is definitely one of the distinguishing feature of technical communication, right? Um, for example, Barack Obama giving his speech is a technical communication, right? He mainly talks about society and politics per se. An engineer giving a speech on engineering thing is also very specific. So that is also a technical communication, right? There are so many types of technical communication. There are a variety of those. Okay, but you have to understand in most of the scenarios when you say types, you are confused and your mind suggests you to or be specific, like, okay, for example, this many types, but this does not apply in your communication. Okay, you have like variety and variety of those things, and you can add from your side also. That is the beauty of this course. You can, whatever you feel like adding, you can add from your side. Okay, for example, like seven C's of communication, principle of communication, you can add your own C. For example, you can say clarity. You can say, in addition to clarity, conciseness, and things like that, you can say some other C also. Okay. For example, cooperative. Whatever you feel like telling. Okay. Now, okay. The other thing is, for example, a business letter, a driving guidebook, a job application, a manual and digital camera, website, brochure. Yes, these are all technical communication. So don't be confused with technical communication. Okay, for example, if you are applying to United States, the rules and regulations might be different from if you apply to London, right? If you apply to New Zealand, if you apply to Australia, there are different set of rules. If you're applying for Canada PR and if you're applying for Australia PR, there are two different approaches, right? And there are two different instructions. There are two different visa procedures. These are all technical communication. Okay, you have to understand this. All right, you definitely have to understand this. If you're going to Japan, if you're going to, for example, in Nepal, right? If you're going to Rara Lake, if you're going to Gosaikunda, then you go and visit your in order to make your itinerary trip or travelogue, something travel. If in order to maintain your travel journey or something, you go to visit to travel agency, and they give you instructions, right? Okay, this is what the latitude of that place is. This is what the altitude of that place is. So you are, it is more preferable if you visit this place during this time, right? So these are all technical communication, something very technical, something specific. For example, how to use Facebook. This is a technical thing. Okay, if you have read guidelines and if you know all the little technique of boosting your viewers or things like that, maybe that little graphic design work in your photo, how to effectively use Insta, how to use Pinterest, right? Things like that. It has a specific purpose. It's about technicality. It talks about subject matter, right? So this is technical communication, and there are several types of technical communication. For example, let's see, email, right? Okay, or correspondence. You have business. In business, you may have, like, you have according to book. Okay, you have sales letter, letter of credit, letter of inquiry. So in letter of inquiry, in the subject of letter of inquiry, you don't write, "Hey, my name is this, and I'm a," you don't write that. You just inquire about things in a very succinct manner, in a very clear manner, right? Quotation letter. In quotation letter, you produce some quotations of some subject matter, right? You have order letter, you have claim letter, you have adjustment letter, job letter, letter of intent, and things like that. So official, you have cover letter, right? You have a official letter, and you have acceptance letter, you have acknowledgement letter, you have application letter. Okay, you have things like that. So, in documentation and records, you have lecture notes, you have class notes. For example, as of now, I'm lecturing on types of technical communication. Okay, I have this is also a technical communication because I'm talking about a specific subject matter, technical communication. Out of the blues, I don't say you something about piloting or something about a cockpit or something about a driving license, right? My lecture is bounded by all these specifications. So it is about technical communications, right? So you have receipts, a templates, you have logos, right? For example, fill out forms. If you apply for UN job or American Embassy job, you have so many things that you have to fill out, right? You have a survey, questionnaire form, right? For example, if somebody comes from Save the Children and they have a little questionnaire form, it somehow it talks about child, right? It talks about maybe child abuse kind of thing. So you have to understand that. The other thing is also so maybe descriptions, right? You have a little for example, you have a little student handbook, you have employee handbooks, you have conceptual models, you have flow charts, right? You have operations guide. For example, if you are to drive a crane, right? If you have a license, so you have to study the operation. How do you operate crane? How do you operate machine? If you buy a grinding machine in your kitchen, right, for your kitchen, then you have a machine there. You have a yeah, you have a manual, you have a operation guide. How do you operate that? So see, these are the procedures, descriptions, right? You have a student handbook, you have employee handbook. Okay, for example, if you come to teach here in this college, you have a teacher's handbook, right? You have a student handbook, you have rules and regulations, do's and don'ts. So these are all types of technical communications. You have guides, right? You have, for example, if you have any computer software guides, yeah, you can have software guides. Application, if you download application over your cell phone or mobile or computer maybe, then you have some guidelines, right? It says, okay, you gotta agree this, you gotta agree this. It is true that most of the time we don't study all these details, but those are technical communication things. For example, if you open an account in bank, let's say Standard Chartered Bank, then if you have employee account, then you have so many set of rules and regulations, do's and don'ts, which you normally sign, right? Opening bank account, you have manuals and things like that. So you have to understand this. In your next class, we will talk about principle of effective technical communication, right? So this is the principle that is written in this book. You can okay. This is about this is yes. Know your purpose. Audience, know your audience. Be simple, clear, and concise. Specific, accuracy, awareness, knowledge regarding ethical and legal. Be creative. So this is different from principle of communication. Principle of communication is in general your principle of communication, 7 C's, which overlaps with principle of effective technical communication. But in effective technical communication, you have like know your purpose. You have this, and in order to memorize, I have made a little formula which is C ek puzzle, right? C ek puzzle, and then once you have this little thing, you can write it down. Just in case, you don't have to be accurate on writing the thing. You don't have to, write what is written in the book. You can just write something adhering very closely with the idea that is explained in your book. You just think, you just use your little noodle to, it is like you have to know your purpose, right? You have to know your purpose. That is principle is siddhanta, right? Effective communication. So audience, you definitely have some targeted audience, and you have to know your audience. It has to be very simple, because you're not giving, when you're writing manuals or brochures or handbooks or guidelines, right, or operations guidelines, then you are targeting for huge audience, right? You're not writing to make your professor happy or to apply for PhD or things like that. It's not a GMAT or GRE examination where you have to play and demonstrate on some high skilled words, right? So it has to be very simple. So whatever you're writing has to be understood by a wide group of people. For example, somebody from class 10 should be able to understand that, until and unless it is technical. Like if you write something about engineering, then every engineers, a very smart engineer, a lethargic engineer, a talent engineer, less talented engineer, everybody should be able to understand what you're writing. So that is, be simple, clear, and concise. Concise is excessive words and too much explanation. People don't have time for that. It has to be succinct, it has to be brief, yet it has to be meaningful. That is the thing. And it has to be specific, yes. Because if you're writing about for example, if you're writing on how to operate a AutoCAD software, or maybe graphic design software, or maybe Dragon software, then you just write about that. Be specific. You don't digress, okay, from the subject matter. Accuracy, yes, you have to be accurate, because you are providing steps, right? Your step one has to come in step one. It cannot come in step 3 and step 3 in step 1. Awareness, yes, and knowledge, yes. You have to be aware. You have to have knowledge of some ethical and legal matters, okay? You should not use derogatory terms, right? You should not pinch on some subjugated matter of the society, right? If you are in, for example, if you are in Arabian countries, you should not make any sorts of cartoons, okay? You should not but in United States it is okay to make cartoons. If you are in things like that, okay, you have to be very culturally aware and socially aware, politically aware. You should not use politically incorrect word, right? You have to be very up you have to have up to date knowledge on using the words, because before 20 years it was okay to tell handicapped people, right? Now you have to tell physically challenged people or mentally challenged people. And even now you have extraordinary something like that. So you have to be very up to date before you write, because what you write is what people study, right? And if they find any loopholes, then you'll be in a problem. So you have to be aware all the time. It is not general communication, it's a technical communication, right? Okay, so in next class we'll talk about importance of technical communication, right? Now because we have talked so much on technical communication, importance is mahatva, right? Is It is in personal value, because you have computers, you have personal value is personal level also, right? Personally also, it is very useful, because you use computers, you use smartphones, you use some other electronic devices, maybe you use coffee machine, right? You should know how to use coffee machine. You use Facebook, you show your little creativity via social media things, you browse websites, you do graphic designing, right? Many students, they are very creative. They somehow put their photo together with some celebrities and enjoy the enjoy, okay. They celebrate their creativity. So this is also in personal level, it is very useful, importance, right? That is importance. And workplace communication also, right? From large, from small communication to large communication, technical communication is very crucial, very useful, right? In mega companies also, for example, airlines, car manufacturing companies like General Motors, where translator is needed. Yeah, translator is also a technical communicator, because translator is a polyglot thing. Okay, is a multilingual job where you know one language and you interpret, you translate into other language. So you become a little machine there, right? You translate things. So you input one language into your mind, okay. You encode that and you automatically decode that into another language, and you tell it to. So that's a fantastic example of intercommunication in a way, yes. So yeah, and career prospect is the field is expanding enormously in U.S. Department of Labor 2010 to 2016 tax the growth as faster than average, right? In Nepal, opportunity is limited, yes, but then not really, because these days you have multi MNC, multinational companies proliferating in Nepal. They are in Nepal, right? You have translators, you have interpreter, you have a writer, you have a content writer, and so you can make a website. You're a website designer, things like that. Okay, so thank you very much for your kind cooperation. In next class, we'll talk about career prospects, and yeah, that's all. Thank you very much.